go to sleep on the 31st of December 2020 and wake up the next day, but when you check your phone, it says January 1st, 2020. After the first couple of days you realize it's just like Groundhog Day. What do you do with the information you have about 2020? Story 1 ID probably go to California and just tell a couple what gender their kid would be. I can't stop a pandemic but I can halt a wildfire. Edit thank you everyone for the awards. Much appreciated. Story 2 backup 4, 5 years of PhD research data before an accidental wipe removed all of it back in February. Edit wow. This blew up. Thanks for the kind people giving awards. I'm trying to respond to all the comments. But one thing I'll just mention here, most of the data lost was work I published by then, so it would have been nice to keep the codes but losing them wasn't a major loss. But one work was unpublished. Thankfully it was recent so I was able to rewrite the code from memory and publish it 2 months ago. So the damage was mostly controlled thankfully. My professor is a very considerate person and didn't get pissed off as much as he could have, and now I back up everything religiously, so lesson learned without significant lasting damage. Thankfully second edit since my comment confused people, I'll explain what happened. I needed to upgrade the PCS firmware, and asked me to back up everything before giving it to them. Since they would wipe the HDD, I copied everything to Dropbox, and once it copied only the subfolders, for some reason gave the green tick mark that means copying was done, so I didn't double check and just gave it to them. I realized what happened later on, and by then they wiped the PC and turned the bits, so it was unrecoverable. Since my fiasco, IT enacted the policy that they will always back up the HDD of any PC before wiping it. Story 3 show my husband just how much I love him and appreciate him, hug him longer, kiss him harder, squeeze his warm hands, laugh with him, record his voice, take more pics of him and of us together, not sweat the small stuff, be silly with him, savor every meal he made me, stare into his eyes and marvel in their clarity and sparkle. Lay my head on his chest to hear his heartbeat every day. He died in May at age 31. I'd give anything to wake up tomorrow and see his bright blue eyes. Edit oh my goodness. I wrote this at about 3 a.m. and then went to sleep. I had no idea it was caused this much attention. Thank you to everyone who has commented, sent me well wishes and love, and thank you for all of the lovely awards. Not sure I deserve so much kindness but I sure as appreciate it. He left our house walking, talking and smiling back at me as he got into the ambulance, and less than 24 hours later I felt his heart stop under my hand. He was already sedated when I arrived at the hospital, so I'm not even sure he knew I was there, but I pray he did. No one deserves to think they are dying alone. He was the light of my life, my best friend, and I miss him more than even I can comprehend. Don't sweat the small stuff folks, in the end, it rarely ever matters. Peace and love to you all. Story 4 ID tell my dad to go see his doctor. He got his cancer diagnosis in May. Might have had a better shot if they'd found it in January. Edit thank you so much for your well wishes, kind words and shiny badges. Friends, I'm sorry for not replying to everyone, but it's nearly 3 a.m. now and I'll head to bed. My dad is the most stubborn optimist, and I'll just follow his lead. Thanks again, and I hope the kindness you've shown me tonight comes back to you. Story 5 ID sit my brother down, tell him how much I love him, and hug him till my arms give out. ID tell him how much I miss when we were kids and spent every day together. He was my twin born 2 years late and ID give up everything to see him again. I would beg him not to go out that night. I would schedule a camping trip and we'd have so much fun. Story 6 tell my grandma not to travel and stay home. I lost her to COVID on Monday. Her death will always hurt due to how preventable it was and how long it'd been since I've seen her. I will always miss her. Edit was honestly not expecting much attention for this comment, but thank you everyone for your condolences and messages. Although she passed, she did everything she wanted to do in her final days and lived a long life, living to see her great-grandchildren. I thank you all for the support. Story 7 there's an episode of Doctor Who called Turn Left, where the Doctor dies a few years before the year the episode is set, causing mayhem across the world because he couldn't stop calamities that crippled and would eventually end the world. The protagonist of the episode, the Doctor's current companion, goes back in time to the episode's divergent point and kills herself in an attempt to ensure that the Doctor lives and the timeline is corrected. If I woke up on January 1, 2020, I would aim to achieve Donna Noble's goal, preferably without dying, but hey. Why should one life stand in the way of what, a million now too? Story 8 just like Groundhog Day. Well, some very bad things will happen to some very bad people, and if I get caught, who cares, just kill myself in jail like Epstein didn't and start over. Story 9 by TP, bleach, hand sanitizer, and masks. Don't spend money on the stupid stuff I spent it on last time. Sell stocks at the peak and start my company sooner. Story 10 get in touch with my OBGYN and tell him my son's going to be born with a heart condition even though you wouldn't be able to see anything on the scans at 10 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks and 28 weeks. Get in touch with pediatric cardiologists and specialists and give them as much information as I can remember and hopefully do whatever I can to save his life. I'd eat right, rest more, take care of myself more. I'd still accept it if he passed, but at least it would make me feel like I had done everything I could. Edit thank you everyone for your kind thoughts and words. I never expected my comment to get this much attention. It was just the first thing on my mind, and it's a desire that's so true of any parent who's lost a child that I had to speak it. I just wanted to say that I do know I did what I could, but it's so hard to ever step back and admit okay, I did everything I could as a parent. You just feel compelled to do anything you can, even against all human logic. Story 11. Spend much more time with my old kitty that passed away on January 2nd and with my old doggo that passed away in September, and spoil them with their favorite treats and lots of fun toys. I miss them so much. This year's been rough. Story 12. Invest as ton in Zoom and Amazon, but a bunch of money on the Chiefs beating the 49ers in the Super Bowl, but a bunch of money on the Lakers winning the finals. Story 13. All of these saddening comments make me realize just how much I've taken this year and my life so far for granted. The saddest story I have for this year is losing my best dog friend I grew up with. Heartbreaking, yes, but nothing like some of the stories I've read on here. I hope losing my dog is the saddest story of 2020 you'll have to share, and hopefully the saddest for many, many years to come. Wish you all the best, fellow Reddit nerds X. Story 14. Forewarn CPS of my old childhood best friend and have them check in on her constantly. We haven't been friends spoken in a few years, but she snapped and killed her 6-month-old baby this last spring and I would love to spare everyone that pain. Story 15. I'd like to say I would go full action movie hero and try to convince the right people about the incoming virus, but honestly I'd go out every night and dance and party with my friends from January 1st to March 17th. Story 16. I use my awesome newfound powers for good. First, I look for criminals, I tell the world how and when they will die, I make it happen. Even if it wouldn't, I soon decide to become the god of the new world, but soon it turns out that there was a great detective on my tail. I try to kill him on live TV, it's a trick, he survives. His name is L, so begins our game. This is as much as I could recall of Death Note. Story 17. Be ready for my dog's newly developed seizures. Cut my boyfriend off from liquor before the pandemic. Stock up on TP, travel, visit my family more, and prepare all my teaching lessons now that I know the disaster that awaits us. But in reality I would probably do nothing, procrastinate, and let everything turn to just like it had because I would be too depressed not to. Story 18. I would start sewing masks January 1st. As soon as I'm back from lockdown, Mai and I request our vacation for the same week. 3 months in advance's workplace is terrible about granting vacation time. I sign up for Skillshare, and each iteration take a different course. Story 19. Not my friendship and bite my opinionated tongue. I would make huge bets on what's going to happen. I prepare for COVID to get really big. I buy as much hand sanitizer as possible. I then just wait it out until the end of the year, maybe buying large amounts of masks. Story 20. I tell myself that even though I'm going to have another miscarriage in a month, I just need to be able to hold on because I will be adopting my daughter in the summer, and she is what is going to make my life beautiful. Story 21. Take all my savings and short the market on PP, Walmart, and Amazon the next business day. Adjust finances and live on a shoestring. On February 15th, invest everything saved in DoorDash. Keep saving. Sell all DD on June 1st and use everything to short the market on a Biden election. Donate it to the Kentucky and South Carolina Democratic parties, so I can finally feel true remorse and validation about the 100,000s of dead citizens I made a shitload off of. Also, pay off mom's house. Story 22. I would go on vacation. I missed 2019 because my mother was ill and then died and we were short-staffed at the office all year. 2020 was supposed to be the year, and I was making my plans when COVID hit. Story 23. Well, if it's a Groundhog Day scenario, and the consequences don't matter, get infected as fast as and go cough over all the awful humans I know. Also, don't visit my parents, no matter how much they annoy me. Story 24. Probably just rebudget and prioritize my money in preparation for quarantine. Stock up on stuff like masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, etc. I'm not going to hoard that stuff, but I'm just going to have enough around so I don't have to deal with the shortages in toilet paper and soap that's going to happen later on in the year. Also forego shopping for new clothes and instead buy myself some workout equipment before they become insanely expensive. Lastly, you'll probably use the money I saved up to go on a vacation for a Switch. I don't think they were all sold out in January yet, and a new gaming PC as well. Story 25. Inform my family that my sister has pre-symptomatic COVID. Get her hospitalized and isolated ASAP. Advise the doctors which meds to try treating her with, and get media involved to show there's community-transmitted COVID in Washington state. Hopefully turn the tides of infections in my country by getting lockdown started sooner and save my sister from dying a horrible death. For context, my sister was an early casualty from COVID. We didn't know until after her passing and received a diagnosis weeks after the fact when doctors re-reviewed her lung scans and symptoms based on what we know now. Story 26. Tore my Achilles in August and just had surgery to repair it after re-rupturing it. ID stop running, start PT, and build strength so I don't have to go through this. Also enjoy my time with friends and family, be better at saving money for when I get laid off. Story 27. Buy more ammunition, is expensive as right now, just want to shoot my new revolver. Everyone in the comments is like buy Tesla calls and stock up on toilet paper. Next thing you know this is some kind of an alternate reality where not all of the same events take place. Now you're stuck with 5,000 worth of hand sanitizer and toilet paper. Story 28. Go visit my family, and tell my dad to go to the doctor. Maybe they would catch his cancer earlier and we would have more time with him. Also stock up on toilet paper and hang out with friends a ton. Story 29. For one thing, ID save George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Make a few key investments. Buy a ridiculous amount of TP, Purell, Lysol wipes and N95 masks. Edit save Kobe too. Story 30. Tell my best friend to not go to Florida and ride a parachute. To celebrate her boyfriend's birthday. Cord snap and they fell 30 feet. Her boyfriend died and she's been in a coma ever since. I can't even go see her because of COVID. I wish I could be there for her. Story 31. I feel like a lot of you don't understand the plot of Groundhog Day. You keep reliving the same day until you get it right. If you invested a metric ton of money into Amazon that day, you would wake up the morning before you invested, and continuos to relive that one day. Story 32. I see a lot of the same posts and this will probably get lost. I found out recently that my husband has felt off about our marriage, and after talking I can see what he means. I would spend the summer really investing in our marriage and putting more time into it. And if it keeps repeating, I would hopefully have more and more time to invest in us. I don't know if it would change anything, but I hope it would, and it would really be the only thing worth investing in. Story 33. On May 25th, I carry my healthy and 9 months pregnant wife to the hospital, and have every test done so that I could be holding my son right now instead of visiting his grave tomorrow. Story 34. Save my sister's life probably. Then try to spread the word about the virus and the effectiveness of masks before it gets politicized in the U.S., but it's not like much could be done. The virus had already begun in 2019, it would be near impossible for me alone to prevent much. Unless I somehow convince someone important that an early shutdown is a good idea, or just get my hair cut short in February. Also not be super depressed because my sister is still around, so I would probably not gain back all the weight I lost in 2019. Story 35. ID make a bomb threat on Cobb's copter. ID visit my father. A lot. He died from COVID on May 2nd. Today would have been his 65th birthday. We were semi-estranged, cool but not tight. Story 36. I would enjoy being close to people and not having to mind my distance. Study hard so I could get even better grades when everything shut down right before my midterms. ID put in my notice for my apartment earlier so I didn't have to pay as much rent. Story 37. Spend every second of every day with my mother who died July 23rd of cancer. Warn my cousin to quit her job where she caught COVID and spread it to her family, and caused my aunt to be on a ventilator with 15 chance of survival. P.S. She was on it for a month and a half, called the family for an end-of-life event, pulled through that, had to have a tracheotomy put in, was in induced coma for most of that time and then 2 weeks with a trach. Yesterday they took her trach and feeding tube out. It looks like she's gonna pull through. Story 38. I would probably start spreading awareness about BLM and abandon my abusive aunt before it got bad and not come out to my family. Edit. I was reading through the thread and I saw a person say buy toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and I would definitely do that too. Story 39. Spend every day that I can with my mom. She passed away in April. I miss her more than anything. Cancer A Groundhog Year. Grand Master Plan. First make money. You could do this by buying stocks of companies you know will boom soon, then sell them at the right time. Once achieved you can do about anything. Until the last week or so ID just enjoy myself, buying all kinds of fun stuff. And in the last week ID do things I always wanted to do or wondered what it'd be like that have too many serious consequences normally. Such things would be with certain people all kinds of drugs, murder, using all kinds of weaponry, nuking someplace, killing myself in various ways. I think you see where I'm going here. Things I would never do, but since they'll be undone in a few days I think it'd be okay stick a bobby pin in an outlet. That, I'm not living through this again because of the butterfly effect. Anything or situation I could prepare for may never actually happen. So that's a bummer. What would I do? Have an existential crisis because I'm stuck in a time loop. Story 40. Buy a fuckton of toilet paper, and when there are the crazy shortages I could go around leaving rolls on people's doorsteps and handing them out to people who couldn't stockpile in time. I could be the TP fairy. Story 41. ID warn everyone about the virus immediately and make sure everyone is prepared. Like Bill Murray, if I don't get it right the first time, he'll keep trying until I do. Story 42. Try to convince my best friend not to travel to Florida in March because he subsequently caught COVID and died shortly thereafter. Also, invest in Zoom so we can offset our lost income from the collapse of the tourist industry in Hawaii. Story 43. Buy up all the N95 masks and give them to first responders and keep some for myself and family. Tell as many people I can to visit their family in the retirement homes every day without fail and put all my money in the stock market accordingly. Story 44. Everyone is talking about doing things to get money, but ID write up a detailed report of exactly what will happen in the United States with this novel coronavirus nobody knows about, and hopefully convince the government that I'm from the future so they'll lock down sooner. Story 45. I would sound like the biggest nutcase by trying to warn everyone of what's coming, then get rich by writing a book about how I knew what was coming and what's still to come, buy a mini mansion on land, build the ultimate PC gaming rig, and then who cares what happens 2021. Story 46. I'm going to stock up, but decently, no run, you'll have 2 months on food supplies, but also, I'm not saying a word about this to anyone. It's not that I wouldn't want to, I really would, but absolutely no one in their right mind would say things like that. And if I tried ID be labeled a cuckoo and ID actually be the first one in quarantine long before anyone else. Story 47. Break up with the narcissistic dickhead who screwed me around for 10 months this year, start the year with the knowledge that I am strong enough to leave, and then hop to getting my back together and start enjoying life again. Story 48. Fucking shoot myself. I'm not going through 2020 all over again, but I'm not a monster. ID write about all of 2020 in the suicide note, and maybe ITLL go viral, with no one believing any of it of course. ILL make its way into the conspiracies. And then conspiracy theorists will be the closest to the truth, screaming about needing masks and safeguard measures, all the while being called alarmists. I wouldn't really kill myself, I have too much spite for myself to do that. Story 49 Buy stocks, sell stocks, but I'll do it from another country so I'm not trapped in America with all the fucking anti-mask fuckers screeching everywhere. Story 50 Man, I'd be super sad. My dad died December 23, 2019 at age 51. So I'd still be in the initial shock phase and not have even begun the grief process, and all the therapy I've had since then. I've grown a lot in 11 months. It's still sad, but I don't cry as much. Story 51 Just not GAF about anything. Spent a lot of this year stressing about the world, so I think if it got reset I'd finally get to relax. Also switch schools a lot sooner because I didn't realize how much I needed to until after I did, and by then my GPA had already tanked. Story 52 Buy Zoom stocks, and stay at my grandparents' place in India for a month so I could say a proper goodbye, deal with all their financial stuff for them. Make sure they have a doctor all lined up and set them up with a Wi-Fi router and landline. Since they won't be able to visit my cousins nearby for a long time, they're still alive. I just haven't heard from them. Also, host a going away party for my brother instead of saving it for Easter. Story 53 Buy stocks in companies that produce hand sanitizer, surgical masks, toilet paper and milk, not in companies that produce tear gas though, because people who use that. Story 54 I do not let the girl that wakes up next to me that morning leave the country 9 days from now. I have never been a better me than when she's around, and I might not see her for a long time.